Launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space Monkeys blasting off with David Rhodus. He's the CEO of Sumi, a new project coming online with Substrate tech behind it. Very happy to have him on the show. David, welcome to Space Monkeys.
Thanks for having me. I'm really delighted to be here in this beautiful space.
Yeah, me too. It's a nice place here. I'm glad we could meet in the city. I've been trying to get you on the show for many months now, and I'm glad we pinned you down. Because Sumi is one of the projects that I'm most curious about how it has an impact, not only on the people who use it, but also on the .sama space as far as adoption goes. Maybe you could give us just a quick overview of what you're trying to achieve with the Sumi project.
Yeah, totally. So, for example, Sumi overall, we've looked at Google, and we want to build basically a replacement to Google. And our first product is going to be called Sumi Notes. And that is essentially a replacement for Gmail. And as we all know, like from 1970, like email was the first social media.
Sure.
That's basically what we're targeting. A lot of people call it like a wallet-to-wallet messaging system.
Yeah.
What's very unique is like we built this using the Substrate framework specifically because of like the technical abilities it enables. And for example, we can talk to any Polkadot wallet out of the gate with it. But it also allowed us to augment Substrate so that we can communicate with any other blockchain wallet. So we can talk to Ethereum, Solana, Avalanche, essentially anything out there that's using like, derived base hash wallets. It's using like public private key encryption, so the messages are secure. You can add in additional encryption if you feel, paranoid enough, like AES, like 256 and things like that, to try to get like some quantum resistance if you're, fearful of your messages being decoded, like down the road by Google.
Okay, all right. So there's lots to unpack there. Wallet-to-wallet messaging, this is the Sumi Notes, the first thing you're starting with?
Yes.
I saw Gavin Wood sent the first Sumi Note in Buenos Aires, right?
Yeah. He's really excited about the project, and he thinks it will be a great like augmentation, I think, to the governance 2.0 to enable like voter delegation and need like a secure transport layer to send your delegation. And
sure.
When I first talked to him, he was like, I've been looking for this. I thought I was going to have to build it myself.
Oh, yeah. And you also said it's not just Substrate to Substrate wallet. You'll also be able to go Substrate to an Ethereum address and Bitcoin as well. You can use your Bitcoin private keys to open messages?
Yeah, that's what's really beautiful with Substrate. We can map any type of blockchain wallet into the system. There's similar operations out there that are trying to do wallet-to-wallet messaging. Almost all of them are completely centralized at this point. And that's, we're going with full decentralization on day one with this. And while I love Polkadot, the tech behind it, I feel like is currently the best. We still need to be able to talk to like Vitalik or, my dad maybe, or someone has some Bitcoin and I want to send him a message. So we're very blockchain maximalist. Yeah. And, we don't want to exclude any blockchain out there.
Okay, so digging into the notes a bit, right now what happens if I want to send somebody an email, I type up an email, it gets routed through some server nearby and eventually makes its way to you. What happens here instead? What's going on instead?
As soon as you craft up the message and you're ready to send it, you've selected your recipient's wallet, which maybe is like Vitalik.eth or, my Polkadot address or, any of your best friends, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as you start to send it, first thing that will happen is we'll encrypt the message using that recipient's public key so that when they receive it, only they can decrypt it with their private key. We're pretty storage agnostic, so we write a little bit of data to the chain, but we try to keep the chain extremely lightweight. So the bulk of the message is written to off-chain storage. Again, we're agnostic, so we're working with like IPFS and Crust, toying around with some scaling issues there. So
okay,
we were hitting some issues during like simulation loads. So we're still going to implement every storage that's decentralized out there, But in the meantime, we've also had to step up and build our own, what we're calling Sumi Storage right now.
Okay.
And it's basically building it out of, we're necessary to scale Sumi Notes.
Okay, I want to get back to the storage here because you said a moment ago, like you guys are kind of trying to replace Google.
Mhm.
Is this like the Google services or the Google search or all of it?
I think at some point we want to replace all of it.
Okay, maybe you could give us a little backdrop of kind of who you are and where you've come from. And, if you want to take on Google and you also have this new storage solution that, is better than what's on the market now. Maybe you could tell us about where you started and how maybe you can get there. So what was your first networking project?
I've been into computers essentially my whole life since I was a child.
Okay.
I was very blessed. My dad, we had computers essentially when I was born in the early 80s, and my dad pushed entrepreneurship on me. So when I grew up, accessing the internet via dial-up where we lived remotely was a long-distance phone call. So I was fortunate enough that my family and I got to bootstrap in dial-up internet service in the 90s. And essentially I ran that for my family and myself, importantly. And that was sort of like a beautiful part of the internet where it was a little bit more decentralized at that point.
Huh.
There was a lot of these mom and pop dial-up services around the country, before the consolidation of just a couple of major players like Comcast and so forth.
Right. So you guys started like a local dial-up service
Yeah.
to avoid these long-distance dial-up fees?
Yeah, because
Okay.
there's, tens of thousands of people in the city I live in.
Right.
It's not a large, but there's also a local university. And if we wanted to get on, the popular thing at the time was America Online,
Right.
we were going to pay like a minute or two a long distance fee to get on there.
Right.
On top of the AOL fee, which I think at that time you were still paying like by every 10 minutes or something.
Okay.
So it was very luxury to just surf the internet back then. And we built the infrastructure up. We bought 2 T1s. We bought 2 BRI lines to start out with. So it gave us like 48 dial-up lines, put in a bank of modems, and kind of decentralized access to the internet locally for this rural region I grew up in.
All right. Okay. So you did that when you were a teenager?
Yeah, very very early in life.
Okay. All right. And where'd you go to from there?
Yeah, so when I graduated high school, a few years after starting the dial-up service, I was looking for something to do, and a friend of mine, his mom was working at a pretty large insurance company, and he's like, "Come over here. It's a lot of stuff you can play with, and you'll find your niche, right?" So
Okay.
I went, and it was really beautiful. I got free reign essentially, and started writing software for healthcare adjudication systems. Started managing like part of their IT. It was a lot of fun. Learned so much about health insurance and reinsurance and this very complicated process of American insurance industry. And after about 5 or 6 years, I couldn't find anything new to learn, so I thought I would run my own insurance company for a while.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
very young and arrogant at that point.
How'd it go?
It went okay. Like,
Nice,
I mean,
nice.
well, I was not like anything on the map, but I had a good handful of clients. That like white glove service, you can definitely get some clients in a small scale. And, at some point it doesn't make sense to keep it because you're getting priced out long term from larger competitors because they want those clients back.
Okay.
So I was able to offload it and, kind of exit nicely for being so young.
Okay. Nice. All right.
I was entered into, I think, like a 4 or 5 year long non-compete in the health insurance industry. And that was great because I was looking for the next like super challenging technical thing.
Okay.
I think this was probably around like 2009 or something. And I think the term big data was just starting then, which didn't seem that interesting because I'd already been playing with big data, like inside of,
In the insurance.
yeah, like
Okay.
just like millions and millions of people's healthcare records, like we're analyzing. And
Wow.
so one of the things that really caught my attention was YouTube, and like streaming video was starting to become like pretty reliable, but still not great, right? So I did a startup in streaming video, and essentially we like targeted high school sports, like Division II, Division III colleges, so very collegiate based. Probably American football was our number one stream. We would do like between like 400 to 600 games on a Friday night. It was pretty exciting. We had like a little, staff come in and, to manage that.
Okay, so in 2009, you're streaming hundreds of football games?
Yeah, live streaming.
Live streaming,
Yes.
okay. Okay, cool.
And it was a lot of issues, but really exciting working through them. We built a lot of custom video tech to do like motion graphics, video overlays. We created some like first patents for like doing advertising inside of live streams, which
I mean, where was YouTube at the time? Was YouTube live streaming yet?
I don't think they had a live streaming option, or if they did, it was very select at that point.
Okay.
We talked to YouTube a little bit, like they wanted to host, I think, our archive, but it just didn't make sense at the time.
Okay.
I remember like there was areas like in Texas, for example, those Friday nights, there'd be so many views, like we would break like Limelight and Akamai, the CDNs in those days.
Okay.
And we'd call CDN outages, which was really amazing at that time. I mean, horrible experience for our customers, but
Right.
just to be able to generate that much viewership.
Crazy. Okay, so you weren't competing with YouTube though, or anything like that?
No, we were like just brothers, like
Okay.
going after different industries.
Okay, so how did that all wrap up?
It became pretty interesting after a while. Like we started doing some also like enterprise pieces, like intercompany broadcasting of like town halls and things like that. So we started growing out of like the collegiate sports. And at that point, we were seeking some investment, and then this cable company was really intrigued with all the content we had. I think we had like almost 200,000 football games we had recorded.
Wow.
So they wanted the content, and essentially ended up basically acquiring the company to deploy that content on their regional cable systems.
Okay, so that was, 10 years ago?
Basically, a little over 10 years ago.
Okay, and what have you been doing since?
From there, I still didn't exit the video. It was still intriguing enough that I went and joined this early stage company that focused on the actual video compression codecs.
Okay.
And it was a great time to enter. They had been selling like these really hefty server appliances with their software to similar like the NFL and like broadcasters. And at the time, they had not touched like public clouds like Amazon and so forth, but their customers were wanting that. They were uploading like lots of video, their editors, and they wanted to cut and encode the video, get it out to their websites for delivery. So I got to build up the team that created this control plane inside of Amazon, that we lifted up this very advanced video software. I think our first customer might have been the BBC, and from there, like, we got tons of other American broadcasters. We got Amazon Video as customer, Netflix. Occasionally we would do like odd jobs for YouTube. Like, it was really amazing.
Wow.
It unfortunately didn't last too long, because then Amazon came and acquired us, and we got sucked in to be like an option inside of AWS console at this point.
Okay, so AWS acquired you at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's very exciting, because at that point we got to do deep integrations with other Amazon services like Amazon S3 Storage, their content delivery network, and other pieces.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun. Finished out the rest of my vest there, and at that point, corporate wasn't really for me. I could tell like my entrepreneur self was like just screaming, "Get out, David!"
Yeah.
And while I was in Amazon, like, Ethereum was launching. We were all tracking it. We were playing with it already on the side when we got home at night. A lot of us were playing with mining, seeing like, how does this work? What is it? So at that point, it made sense in my head to like start exploring Ethereum.
Okay.
That was like this buildable blockchain right at the time, and this was around like 2015, 2016. And there was a company called Consensus, which was like a venture studio and a solutions arm for building like enterprise applications on Ethereum.
Yeah.
So I joined that company and learned a tremendous amount about blockchain, building dApps, building, real like enterprise-based applications for supply chain tracking, other pieces like that for commodities. Very great experience. Unfortunately, after a few years of playing with Ethereum, you start to hit these like boundaries of like gas fees, irreversibility. The upgrades are very complex. And we were seeing that too because like essentially most of the enterprise deployments we were doing were not on public Ethereum. It was like private forks or IBM's Hyperledger. Just
right.
It was very clear. And I remember I was at the Web3 Summit in 2018 and Gavin showed off this new framework called Substrate. And it was like, you can make your own L1. And initially I was like, this is silly, And then like I played with it for a while on the side while I was still developing Ethereum. And at that point, it took about a year and it really started kicking in. Like, this makes a lot of sense, okay?
Wow. Okay.
So I wasn't sure what to build at that time still.
Okay.
And like, I was still learning Rust. I'm like a C developer for most of my life. And I thought about joining Parity. A lot of my friends from Consensus left and went over there. And then I guess right before Polkadot launched, it seemed like it started making sense to really build something. I talked to my friends at Parity and they're like, come in, but you're probably going to leave in 6 months, Dave. Like, you're an entrepreneur.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, I need to come up with a project idea.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, what's one of the hardest things to build? And I thought, man, I always wanted to build an email replacement on Ethereum, but it was impossible.
Sure. Yeah, right, with the fees. And
yeah, and they're
right.
like, it's not impossible here because you can do like feeless transactions. Like the users don't even need to like interact with the blockchain. Like Substrate has this new paradigm that allows building blockchain applications that never existed before.
Right.
And that's essentially the infancy of it. I started building it. My friends were like, hey, apply to this thing called the Web3 Foundation. They'll give you a grant. And I'm like, no. And they're like, no, do it, dude. Like, they'll help you. And I'm like, okay. And that was really instrumental in like pushing it forward quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Just the people at Parity were so nice and kind, like shepherding me to build this project. And initially it was basically an email replacement.
Right.
And as we started building it out, we've seen other needs like a really scalable, extremely fast decentralized storage we've had to build to meet the needs of.
Okay, yeah, so I wanted to get back around to this,
Yeah.
right? Because email, it's not just the text, right? It's the images, the videos.
The images, the text, and then like I have some friends that knew Bill Gates pretty good, and
Okay.
like they joked to me like Bill Gates almost went crazy trying to solve this issue of email spam. Like
Oh,
he spent
yeah.
years on it, and they've given me a lot of advice. So like one of the unique pieces with Substrate is that we can build in these gating mechanisms.
Sure.
So like for email, anyone can just drop into your inbox, right?
Right,
Or
it's
your,
open.
your spam box, whatever.
Yeah.
So with Substrate, you as a user can configure what you want to allow to come in. So you can say, I only want a wallet to be able to message me that meets a certain criteria. For example, in like a Web3 terminology, you can say, only I will accept a message from someone that holds 10 DOT and maybe a certain NFT. Or
Sure.
you could start to make these really exclusive communities.
Okay. That's interesting. You can kind of gate access to your own inbox.
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay, cool. Okay, and then back on the storage thing, how are you, okay, because we have Crust, we have Filecoin, IPFS, I don't know, what are you guys doing differently? And what sort of obstacles are you overcoming? Like, how are these other solutions that exist not enough?
Yeah, I mean, they're very beautiful and elegant solutions. They're very decentralized and, they've paved the way. But I would say like, as Bitcoin was like blockchain 1.0, Ethereum was like 2.0, and Polkadot's 3.0, now it's time for the era of like decentralized storage to go through these iterations.
Okay.
And like we had IPFS, which is the initial groundwork. We had Filecoi come out and build like a payment solution for pinning the data to IPFS.
Right.
And like some of the issues, say, for example, if I want to upload a 10 gigabyte file, the network has to go and find a server that has 10 gigabytes. And if I want to upload like a really big file and there's not a single server that can hold that much, it gets rejected. You cannot store
It
that.
doesn't split the file up and...
No, it's very beautiful because it works, the architecture, but it doesn't have like what we would call like sharding and erasure coding and these things that like true enterprise storage has. And those are some of the issues we're hitting, along like also like the download speeds, the time to first byte, pieces like that are very critical if you're delivering like close to real-time communication with people. I mean, imagine if your email took like minutes or tens of minutes.
Right. These are sort of problems you're addressing with your new file storage solution on the blockchain that you're bringing about.
Yeah. So, and again, like the storage solution runs right next to the blockchain. So it's decentralized in that fashion. So it will be an additional requirement for all of our collator nodes to run. So in addition to the Substrate node. Mm-hmm. So they're going to like store the storage, and part of that they get some token compensation for doing some work and benefiting the network.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, I feel like we should get back together and dig into a few things later, like kind of the token model here, and kind of the next steps after the original Sumi Notes. But maybe let's just to wrap this one up here. What can we expect in the next few months? You guys have Sumi Notes. Is it ready? Is it ready to go? Yeah.
So Sumi Notes, it's essentially finished at this point. We've got several alpha versions running, like testing with, 3 or 4 Parachain teams. We have some actual non-blockchain companies testing it at this point.
Anybody you want to share?
We could just say they're like in the Fortune 100 scheme of things.
Fine. Okay.
There'll be more public knowledge. There's a lot of legal with those types of things.
Forget I asked.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's my background. So that's the area I'm used to actually marketing in, is like large scale enterprises.
Okay, great. And I'm sure it's a seductive idea being able to communicate with each other in this encrypted way, wallet to wallet or address to address, not using any third parties to provide that service, right?
Yeah, we think it's very elegant. We think, being able to come in and like stake tokens, start to send messages, and you don't need to go in and sign transaction fees for that. I think it's a new paradigm of like decentralized application development.
Okay.
And as far as like launch, we're basically looking to try to come in and get a Polkadot Parachain slot very soon.
Going straight for Polkadot?
Yeah, we're going straight for Polkadot.
Why not?
Go for the best.
Yeah. Enterprise grade.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, and that's within 6 months, 12 months?
We're definitely going to try to get that going before the end of the year.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that's a lot to chew on, and it's very interesting to get to know your history. It sounds like basically you went from tackling one difficult problem to the next, and this is kind of the next frontier for you.
It's very challenging, and yeah, I love those technical challenges. And as we get closer to launch, or right as we launch, we should definitely sync up again and like debrief on the status of probably some new products will have come out by then.
Okay, very exciting. All right, well, David, very nice meeting you, and thank you very much for coming on the show, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, TJ.
Okay,
Cheers.
thanks, buddy.